The Roman Empire never was abolished. It became a religious institution. Hello, and welcome to That Deacon on YouTube. As I was preparing this month's video, it suddenly dawned on me that what I have to share is connected to one of the charges asked of a deacon at their ordination. Have you ever looked at the ordination of a deacon found in the Book of Common Prayer? Well, it's found on page 537. I personally think it would benefit all the church to understand both the vows and examination of an ordained deacon. I say this because every person baptized should fully realize a diaconal mindset, because everyone is called to embrace a ministry of humble service. Your deacon, if you have one, is there to help you realize this diaconia of daily living. During the examination, the bishop says to the diaconal ordinand, "You are to interpret to the church the needs, concerns, and hopes of the world." And this brings me to what I'd like to share today. Not too long ago, PBS NewsHour interviewed Dr. Stephen Wolff, a professor of medicine who specializes in family medicine and public health. Dr. Wolff was involved in a study which found that life expectancy in the United States has significantly dropped. In the report, it was said on average, life expectancy among white Americans decreased by 1.36 years in 2020. It decreased by 3.25 years for Black Americans and 3.88 years for Hispanic Americans. This news once again demonstrates the nature of systemic inequality gripping our nation. But that's not all.
But as a doctor, I will tell you that health care only accounts for about 10 to 20% of our health outcomes. Our health is really shaped by our social and economic conditions, where we live, and our environment, and that's where we're falling short compared to other countries.
He went on to suggest that education, income, stable jobs, a living wage, and stable housing matters more to our overall health than what doctors do in hospitals. So what does this have to do with the wider church and devout people attending a typical Sunday morning worship service? Lots. On one level, the doctor is talking about equitable living. But if we look at this from the standpoint of the Gospels, the Evangelon, the good news, this laundry list is right on par with the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Education, income, stable jobs, a living wage, stable housing, and neighborhood environment. These basic attributes of equitable living would indeed bring about the flourishing of peoples. Both Jesus and Paul stress these points, not for their followers alone, but for every nation. In the Gospel of Luke, we have the story of Jesus teaching in the synagogue. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." What Jesus was referring to is what's called in the Torah as the Jubilee Year. Every 50 years, there was to be a full releasing of people from their debts, release all slaves, and to return property to those who owned it and who might have lost it. The Jubilee Year was designed to level the playing field so that no one person or entity could become too wealthy. Well, guess what? It was never followed. And when Jesus pronounced the year of the Lord's favor, the crowd became angry. And when he got pushback, he throttled up the volume by suggesting that the Jubilee Year was meant for everyone, not just the Jewish people who thought they were the chosen ones. The crowd responded by trying to throw him off a cliff. This tells me that people would rather kill someone or themselves than change. And eventually, the status quo of Jesus' time did just that. People hate change so much that they would, in time, kill the message of Jesus as well. Home churches of early Christian history became centers of support in helping people follow Jesus' way. Before the title Christian was called of his followers, they were first known as people or followers of the way. I would say that in the first 300 to 500 years, the church focused on this experiential transformation of people. Home church gatherings mostly centered around personal transformation. Then, with the fall of Rome, and with the church inculcated into the fabric of Roman bureaucracy, the leadership of the church began to structure itself like the Roman Senate, filling the void left by the vacancy of city governments. Dame Mary Beard, an English scholar of ancient Roman civilization, once remarked that the Roman Empire never was abolished. It became a religious institution. The focus on transformation of the individual and the notion of a loving spirit formed by creation and evolution was replaced by a vengeful, angry God who had to resort to divine child abuse, killing a son in order to save the world. The Western Church replaced transformation and the belief in salvation as a global, cosmic, restorative event, becoming an institution more akin to officers of Homeland Security at the airport, ruffling through life's luggage to make sure people didn't break any rules prior to the evacuation of the world. But Jesus, time and time again, said that the kingdom of God is with us, and that it was near, and is not something to be given after death. On some Sundays we hear, Kyrie eleison, have mercy upon us. And there's other language used in a typical worship service that turns a loving relationship with God into a transactional communication with a deity waiting to be convinced of our worthiness. Transformation was replaced by obligation. On any given Sunday, a narcissist will walk into church, participate, and still leave a narcissist. An abusive husband or wife will walk up to the altar rail, receive communion, leave, and still remain an angry, manipulative individual. The bigot will sing hymn 603, When Christ Was Lifted from the Earth, and then, later in the day, make a disparaging remark about someone of another race or circumstance. If there is any hope for a sustainable assembly of people following the way as taught by Jesus, personal transformation must be the general focus of our message, our meaning, and our living. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I am not suggesting worship services be done away with. Not at all. But if we are to take Jesus' focus on personal transformation seriously, worship alone is not going to do it. It's not designed to promote this aspect of one's maturity in faith. About the only spiritually healthy way to work on individuals' spiritual maturity is to participate in some sort of contemplative prayer. A transformed person will automatically embrace the notion of a living wage, good education, a stable workforce, and affordable housing. These are not social justice issues. These are merely the fruits of reality formed by a transformed, mature evolution. That is Jesus' teaching, the abundance of grace. Contemplation is a spiritual tool which helps forge a synchronistic relationship with a loving, creative, and supportive God. A contemplative prayer practice can become a joining, which will in time transform the individual into a person of unimaginable abundance, not based on material happiness, but a fuller, richer, more compassionate life. If you are a clergy person watching this video, think about making contemplative prayer a parish-wide ongoing discipline. If you are a layperson, talk with your rector or pastor about initiating this practice in your parish, or start your own group. After all, according to the Book of Common Prayer, you are one of the ministers of the church. Not sure what contemplative prayer practice entails? Check out the books written by Thomas Keating or Richard Rhor. That's a good start. If you reside in Los Angeles, check out stillpoint.org, which promotes a contemplative life of faith, spiritual practice, and action. I'll leave some information below in the information box. So there I performed my diaconal duty to interpret to the church the needs, concerns, and hopes of the world. Just a reminder that there will be no video in August, but if you find these offerings helpful and informative, by all means consider subscribing. And if you subscribe and click on the bell icon, you'll get an email letting you know when new content has been made available. So, until next time, be well, love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself as well. And if you've not been vaccinated, roll up that sleeve and get the shots. Until next time, God bless, and see you soon. Bye-bye.